All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling interview prep for social service consultants.
Ooh, exciting.
It is, especially because the demand for these roles is like skyrocketing right now.
For sure.
Before we even get to the questions, though, I think it's important to really understand what a social service consultant actually does.
Yeah, great point.
So I was looking at the career guide,
Yeah.
and they seem to do a lot, like shaping programs, researching areas for improvement,
hmm
advising organizations, working with people.
A ton of variety.
I know, right? And they're not just stuck in an office.
Oh, definitely not.
From what I read, they're in government agencies, nonprofit.
Community centers,
Exactly.
so many different settings.
Okay, so let's say you've got an interview for one of these like awesome roles.
Okay.
One question that seems to pop up a lot is, tell me about your experience with vulnerable populations.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It feels like there's a lot riding on that answer.
You're right. It's not just about listing experiences. It's about showing sensitivity and understanding too, you know?
for sure.
Even if you haven't had a formal social service job, think about times you've worked with people who are facing challenges.
Okay.
Maybe you volunteered at a homeless shelter or, tutored kids from underprivileged backgrounds.
The interview guide actually mentioned that internships and even personal experiences can be relevant.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
frame them the right way.
So how do we do that?
It's all about highlighting transferable skills.
Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you helped a friend through a really rough time.
Mm-hmm.
You probably used active listening, showed empathy, maybe helped them find resources, right?
Yeah.
Those are all valuable skills in social service.
That's where I think RoleCatcher's AI can be so helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
I was reading that it can analyze job descriptions
Yeah.
and then pull out the specific skills to emphasize for each role.
It's amazing for tailoring your answers.
So smart.
Like if a job description mentions crisis intervention, RoleCatcher might suggest you talk about a time when you stayed calm under pressure and, helped someone through a crisis, even if it wasn't in a professional setting.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Right.
Okay, another question that I think a lot of people get nervous about is, how do you handle conflict with clients or colleagues?
Ah, conflict, the dreaded C word.
I know, it makes me a little nervous.
But honestly, conflict is going to happen anywhere, especially in a field like social work.
True.
The interviewer isn't looking for someone who's never had a disagreement. They want to see how you approach it.
So what's the best way to answer that?
Mm.
Should we give a specific example?
Yeah, a concrete example is always helpful.
Like what?
Okay, so think about a time you successfully navigated a conflict. Maybe you had a disagreement with a coworker about a client's care plan.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of getting defensive, you listened to their perspective, found common ground, and, worked together to find a solution that benefited the client.
I like that. The interview guide also suggests focusing on the resolution, like showing that we can turn conflict into a positive.
Exactly, it's a learning experience.
And, we can always use RoleCatcher to practice our answer and get feedback.
Oh, for sure. The AI can even analyze your tone and body language,
And so you come across as calm and confident.
Right, which is so important in those situations.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Another question I saw was about staying current in the field. Like, how do you stay up to date on changes in social services policies and regulations?
Things are always changing.
I know, so how do we show that we're on top of it all?
This is where your passion really comes through.
Okay.
Don't just, rattle off a list of journals and conferences. Talk about how you actively seek out information
Gotcha.
and how it impacts your work.
So, for example, if I read a research article about a new approach to, let's say, substance abuse treatment,
Yeah.
I could talk about how I presented that to my team. And we actually implemented some of those strategies with clients.
Perfect. You're showing that you're not just passively reading, you're applying it to make a real difference.
I see. And I bet RoleCatcher's Career Guide is a great resource for staying updated, too.
It's a goldmine, honestly. Articles, research summaries, even links to professional development opportunities.
Wow.
All tailored to social service.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
there are a few more questions from our sources that I want to touch upon, like thought-provoking ones
Sure.
about establishing trust with clients,
Mm-hmm.
discussing challenges facing the field, and prioritizing a demanding workload. But we'll dig into those next time.
Stay tuned. We've got lots more to cover. Welcome back. We were just talking about staying up to date in the field and how it actually translates to your work, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You mentioned substance abuse treatment, and that made me think about all the systemic issues that impact social services.
Oh, for sure. Like the career guide mentioned limited funding and how that affects access to treatment.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
It is
A consultant who gets those bigger challenges is going to be way more effective at advocating for change.
totally. Okay, let's get to some more of these interview questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
This one really stuck with me. How do you establish trust with clients, especially when they might be hesitant to open up?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I can imagine that takes, like, time and effort.
It does. You got to think about it from the client's perspective, right? They might have dealt with trauma, discrimination, or just, a lack of support.
Yeah.
Building trust is about showing them that you're a safe and reliable resource.
The interview guide talked about active listening and creating a safe space.
So important. It's not just hearing their words, it's understanding the emotions behind them.
Right.
And every client's different. What works for one person might not work for another. That's why cultural sensitivity is key.
Which leads us to another question. How do you ensure your services are culturally sensitive and inclusive?
Ooh, that's a big one.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think self-awareness is huge here. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have biases.
Sure.
A culturally sensitive consultant is always checking those biases and, trying to understand their clients' unique experiences.
So it's not just about being polite. It's about, genuinely respecting different norms and values.
Exactly. It's a constant process of learning and unlearning.
Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of assuming everyone celebrates Christmas, a culturally sensitive consultant might ask a client about their holiday traditions,
Right, that makes sense.
It builds rapport and shows respect.
I like that. Okay, another question that I think we can all relate to is, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the social services field today?
Oh, this is a good one. To really show that you're not just skilled, but you're also a critical thinker.
Mhm.
Think about the issues that keep you up at night. Is it the lack of affordable housing, the opioid epidemic, the rise in mental health concerns?
Also a chance to show that we're not just, pointing out problems, but thinking about solutions.
Mhm. Exactly. Are there innovative programs you've read about, policy changes that could help?
That's where the passion for social justice comes in.
For sure.
Okay, last question for this section, and it's about time management. How do you prioritize competing demands and manage your workload effectively?
Ooh, time management, the struggle is real.
I know, we've all been there.
So how do you stay on top of things? Do you make to-do lists, use time blocking, have a system for prioritizing?
I'm a big fan of project management apps. Helps me keep track of everything.
Nice. Sharing your specific approach shows the interviewer that you've thought about this, and that you can handle the demands.
But even with the best organization, you still need to prioritize self-care, right?
100%. Burnout is a real issue in this field.
The career guide actually mentioned the emotional toll of this work as a potential drawback.
It's so important to have healthy boundaries and coping mechanisms, whether it's meditation, exercise, or just spending time with loved ones.
Taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. Speaking of RoleCatcher, you mentioned earlier that it can analyze job descriptions and suggest specific skills to highlight.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of how that works?
Sure. Imagine you're applying for a job that's all about program development and data analysis.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher scans that description and then suggests experiences from your resume to talk about.
So instead of giving a generic answer about, conflict resolution,
You could talk about a time you used data to identify a program weakness and then worked with your colleagues to fix it.
so it's about showcasing those skills in real-world situations.
Exactly. You're painting a picture for the interviewer.
I'm actually feeling a lot more confident about these interview questions now.
That's great to hear. And remember, practice makes perfect. RoleCatcher's video practice feature can help you refine your answers and, nail that delivery.
Awesome.
You even get AI feedback on your body language and tone.
I love that. Well, we're ready for part 3. We'll pull it all together.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So as we're wrapping up our exploration of interview prep for social service consultants, I'm realizing it's about more than just, knowing the right answers.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about passion too, right?
Absolutely. We've talked about skills and experience and all that,
Yeah.
but what really makes you stand out is that genuine passion for the field, The interviewer wants to see that spark, that commitment to making a difference.
That reminds me of something I read in the career guide.
Oh, yeah.
It said, social service consulting isn't just a job, it's a calling.
I love that.
And with any calling, there are challenges.
For sure.
We talked about the emotional toll of this work,
Yeah.
the potential for burnout.
It's real, and the interviewer is going to want to know that you're not just passionate, but also resilient, that you have ways to cope, a good support system.
So it's okay to talk about self-care in an interview.
Absolutely. It shows you're self-aware, that you're committed to your well-being, which ultimately means you can better serve your clients.
Thinking back to all those, tough interview questions we discussed,
Mhm.
I'm really impressed with how RoleCatcher can help us prepare.
It's a game changer.
It's like having a personal coach, guiding you every step of the way.
Right. From analyzing job descriptions to giving you feedback on how you're answering, it takes the guesswork out of it.
But even with the best prep, there's still that, unknown element of the interview.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's feeling nervous or unsure about the process?
Remember your why, Why did you choose this path? What kind of impact do you want to make? Connect with that purpose. Let your passion shine through.
I like that your authenticity will come through.
Exactly.
That's a great reminder, and it goes beyond the interview. It's about staying connected to those values, that vision, even when things get tough.
It is. It's about constantly learning and growing, finding new ways to make a difference.
Maybe even designing your own program someday.
Right. Addressing a problem that you're passionate about.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It was fun.
We hope this has left you feeling inspired and ready to tackle those interviews with confidence.
And passion. To all the aspiring social service consultants out there, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in your power to make a difference.
And remember, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way.
It really is.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.